I want to bring in Laura Tyson. She was the chair of President Clinton's National Economic Council. Today, she's an economic advisor to the Alliance for Taxation, or for Competitive Taxation. Okay, Laura, you say that reforming the corporate tax system could unleash economic growth. Tell me how.
Well, basically, we're starting with the notion of really bringing the corporate tax rate down. Study after study has shown, as the OECD recently said, corporate taxation is the most inefficient form of taxation. It discourages investment. It encourages companies, when they can be mobile, to look for lower tax environments in which to place economic activity. If we want to create investment incentives here for U.S. companies and for foreign companies and for jobs here, we have to start with a competitive corporate tax rate. So that's the first step, bringing the rate down. The second step is paying for that by getting rid of the kind of loopholes, preferences, credits, subsidies that have been added to the code over the past 30 years that really distort the code. So economists worry a lot about the distortions. Why do you prefer one sector to another sector, one firm to another firm? This is really inefficient, and it distorts the allocation of capital. That discourages growth. Well, so we can get growth going by a much lower rate, and by getting rid of it, paying for that lower rate through base broadening.
To get reform done, Republicans and Democrats need to give something up. And corporate tax revenue as a share of GDP is historically low, right? And you can see, companies like Apple, for example, under our current tax system, they pay U.S. tax rates on the profits they earn overseas, but only when they bring those profits back to the U.S. So Apple keeps something like $100 billion in cash offshore. You say we need a territorial tax system. Explain in layman's terms for, for our audience, how would that work?
What we need is a system which is more similar to the systems of the other advanced industrial countries that are homed to companies that compete with our companies. So what is the rest of the world doing here? What the rest of the world is doing is basically saying to a company, look, if you earn income outside of your headquarter country because you're running real economic activity there, you are basically selling into that market, that's how you compete around the world, then that income, when you bring it back, you may pay some tax on some portion of that, but a lot will come back without any additional domestic tax. That's what the rest of the world does. And then the rest of the world has a variety of different ways of trying to handle the fact that there's some money abroad, which is really shifting from one location to another location, not because of real economic activity in those locations, but because of tax haven, low tax status. So countries have said, we can figure out a way to handle this movement of income, and when money comes back from our companies, we'll subject it to some tax, but nothing like the tax rate or that you would confront, that Apple would confront if it brought its income back to the United States. So we have a system now where essentially there is a very strong incentive for a company that's selling abroad, competing abroad, earning income abroad, paying taxes abroad, not to bring that money back. That hurts the U.S. economy. We want that money back. We need that money back for creating jobs here, for creating investments in our community here.
All right, and we'll see if tax reform is something that can happen in the foreseeable future. Laura Tyson.